OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 316. The Bounty Hunters. Left hemisphere explosives primed and prepped. The Hat reports. They had scanned the brain and found no sensory organs or anything of the sort, but the entire neurological structure bent inwards as if all attaching to a singular source. But the brain was so large, and the part the whole mess was attached to was so deep in, that the only attack they had that would reach it before any reaction would be an orbital bombardment, which with all the unknowns still on the ship. So they were instead going to shear away the mass around the central point. The sheer amount of meat, electricity, and supporting bone structures were blurring their scans. But even if they couldn't outright kill the brain, they'd send it back to its infancy. No problem. Excellent. Dong, how is the right side looking? Does it pass the secondary inspection? Puke asks. Looking good, sir. Dong reports as he rejoins them on the landing. Then that's everything, Mr. T remarks. I think we need drinks for a time like this. We're never going to do another stunt like this again. Never say never, Mr. T, and we work before we play, Puke replies. Thank God you guys have body cams on. This one is going to be passed around the boys. A lot. Harold states. They're in the middle of a delicate operation, Operative Jameson. Clear the comm channel, Bike remarks. Sorry. I said clear the comm channel, Bike remarks with a touch of amusement in his voice. There is nothing said for a few moments. I actually expected him to apologize again. Subverting a joke can be as good as telling a joke if done well, Harold says. Okay, quiet from the peanut gallery. Blowing the mind in 3, 2, 1, Puke says before triggering the C4. The boom is the first sound followed by a squelching noise as the massive organism is pulped, like a water balloon with a stick of dynamite inside it. Shit, Puke remarks as a wave of greasy, fatty gore comes right at them. The lift behind them opens, and they all move into it and shift to the side while pressing the door closed button, and then there is a line of gore and gray, fatty viscera in a line between them all. They press the door open button and look out at the chunky and pulped remains of brain matter. That's going to be a bitch to clean. Pressure washer in a couple hours tops, the Hat notes. Well, Then something starts screaming. Not through the axiom, audibly. They rush forwards and don't even pay attention as their boots squelch the ground, as they less run and more fly over the gore and cadaver of the giant brain. At the very center of the brain is a tiny pod, or perhaps an egg. Jet black and simply floating in the air where the brain matter was sheared away from it. Did she do it again? The Hat demands as he brings up the rear with his massive gun at the ready. Looks more mechanical, Puke replies with the pummeler out and ready to destroy. He tries to skid to a stop in front of the dark orb, but the remains of the brain are only marginally less slippery than industrial strength lubricant, and he slides clean into it with a loud clang. Then the rest of the team slide into him in short order. After that bit of embarrassment, they all carefully step around it and begin examining it for something. The screaming inside is horrified, but whoever's in there paused for breath. Can you hear us? Puke demands. There's a flying arm called the pummeler right there, a girl's voice calls back. We're wearing stealth armor. We're going to get you out of there. Is there a catch or latch on your side? No, I can't see anything. I just woke up. Hang on, there's no controls on this side, so we're going to crack it. Tell us if something starts pinching or pressing on you, understand? Puke says. Okay, I can do that, she says as both the Hat and Mr. T take opposite positions across each other against the sphere. Both grab onto the sphere in a bear hug-like gesture and brace their feet against the others. Then they both squeeze ever so, and the sphere compresses just a touch. Then they start pushing against each other with their feet as they lean back. It's not enough, so Puke gets between them both and puts the pummeler against the Hat's chest and his own hand on Mr. T's and starts to slowly push them apart, extending the pummeler ever so slowly. The pod cracks open and the force of it causes a tiny form to be flung upwards with a shriek of shock. But before she can land in the gore, Dong's invisible arms wrap around her, and although the slick ground causes him to stagger ever so slightly, he keeps her up. It's okay. You're out and safe, Dong assures the tiny green-skinned woman, not voicing the fact he had expected another Kobe clone of Ivan or Iva. She clutches around until she can get the feel of his armor and latches on like he's going to vanish. Who are you people? What happened to me? Where am I? I've been having the weirdest dreams, and where are my clothes? Why do I have an umbilical cord? All good questions. We can only answer a few, but it would be best if we did it out of this house of horrors. We're heading to the elevator before we take any armor off, and then we're fast-tracking you to a hospital to make sure you're all right. Do you understand, ma'am? Pukey asks. Yes, I understand. Thank you, the gob woman says as she looks around before feeling around her head. My hair. Where is my hair? The sensation of being taken along for a woodwalk is bizarre. It is truly unlike other forms of teleportation, except for one type that Jin Shui is thankfully familiar with. Mostly because there is a martial art she has vaguely studied that uses similar techniques. One that involves a massive arsenal of weapons on the person and switching out which weapon you attack with mid-swing. It has several names as the technique is simple but effective and has been discovered independently in numerous different places and times. Some cultures even discovering it before they are discovered by the galaxy at large. She was trained in the variant known as the Trickster's Blade. After all, it is nigh impossible to fight blade to blade with a foe when you cannot perceive if the blade is short or long, curved or straight, thin or thick. It renders attacks nigh impossible to deflect, dodge, parry, or block. The only counters to the Trickster's Blade was to either have reflexes so masterfully honed that the split second it took between the blade switching and its striking flesh was time enough to react, or more commonly, to learn the body languages and mechanics of all species and learning to read your foe. One of her favorite daughters was an absolute master of this art, capable of having entire conversations with body language alone. She spoke demurely, almost shyly, but was pure as personality and utter hilarity when silent. You okay? Terrence asks, and she nods. I am fine, she states as she takes stock of the situation. The room had the mustard gas severely depleted, and she could see it being openly drained in several areas. A large plant-based structure had been created, resembling almost a cobbled-together emergency atmospheric generator as it pulled in the deadly fumes, with a sound akin to a cleaning drone at work and letting out a great wind directly upwards. And what is that? Well, the astral forest can't grow in the heavy gravity of a planet, but the spores can be put together to form structures. So I put together a bunch of them like pipes to swish the gas around and convert it into safe atmosphere. Mostly nitrogen and oxygen, some carbon and traces of other elements like argon, hydrogen, helium, and more. Don't ask me to give you specifics. I'm leaning on the brain power of the other astral sorcerers. Do not disparage yourself. This is brilliantly done, she says gently. He needs a different touch than Hafid. That boy was born ready to fight the entire galaxy and all the others into submission. Terry, on the other hand, is more timid. He's off balance, and whatever his true nature is, it's currently hidden by an excess of caution, unless that is his nature asserting itself. Either way, he seeks approval and guidance, not challenges and tests. But this may change. Can you make more of these? While I agree that you should not be in combat until you are tested in a less lethal situation, having you assist in clearing out the gas would save countless lives. She offers, and from the way his glowing eyes are crinkling behind his night black mask, she can see him smiling. Of course, copy and paste. Easy breezy, Terry says, and beneath her sealed armor, Jin Shui smiles. Who says motherhood is hard? Or grandmotherhood in this case. Why are you insisting I use this? Dart asks as he holds up the strange weapon. It is proportionally long and thin, but moderately heavy, well-balanced and with a protective hilt around his hand. It's one of the funny things we've been running into around the galaxy, the Undaunted trainer says. Dart had agreed to join the Undaunted, under the condition that he be permitted to remain by his Alara's side. They had agreed and assigned him a personal trainer as part of a pilot program for situations like his. Admiral Terabyte had moved so quickly that the rabbi's man was questioning if the synthetic Erementa had some degree of clairvoyance. And that would be? Dart presses as he swings the weapon a few times in his upper right hand. We just keep running into situations or bits of culture or history that match up with legends and stories, or run parallel to our own in bizarre ways. Oh, that's common. Every species goes through it, Dart dismisses, putting aside the fact that there are only so many sounds that can be heard by the galactic average in only so many story types. There's also the fact of interconnection. No one's sure of the mechanics, not exactly. But most religions call it some kind of divine providence, or a sign of the divine that there seems to be some greater source of knowledge. Interesting. Anyways, I'm starting you on that weapon because your first and last name is phonetically identical to one of the main characters in a series of novels. That is the type of weapon he and his fellows used. The rapier d'Artagnan, the young and plucky newcomer to the Three Musketeers, a young swordsman bold enough to challenge three mighty warriors to sequential duels, absolutely certain that he will best them all. Does it kill him? Considering that he is later in a book that takes place 20 years later, I think we can decisively say no. Unless you humans have an absolutely insane amount of undead in your stories. Yes, but not in this one. Humans to Hun? So undead is a universal concept? The trainer asks him. It is. I think it's because everyone wants a dead loved one back, or imagines their spirit close by, and then some creative just needs a few seconds tops to think of, what would happen if they came back wrong? Ooh, scary! Dart explains with a snort, then lunges at the trainer. He's deflected fast and easy, but the teacher is grinning. Good, I was really wondering when you'd start to take some initiative, his trainer states. I was waiting for a go! Dart protests as he tries to deflect the retaliation strike, but the weapon is knocked out of his hand with ease. That's for official duels. In a real fight, the only go is when someone wants blood, and the only stop is when you've won a run. Run? You want me to run? If you're not going to win a fight, then you should absolutely run, or even avoid fighting in the first place. I'm teaching you how to fight and defend yourself, not puff you up with a broken and delusional idea of honor and send you to die. Yes, but why are we starting with this and not general training? As I understand it, the physiology, both axiom and otherwise, of a rabbi's gives you an incredible sense of coordination and reflexes. I'm testing where yours are at now, because while I can generally eyeball the rest of your physical standards, yours start out on a level that you need a more in-depth test for it to be properly assessed. There's going to be a few more after this, his trainer says, tossing the rapier back at Dart. Handle first, of course. Such as? I'm going to see how well you juggle and a few games to see how quickly you can react. This bit of swordplay will be the most dangerous of it to begin with. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 317. The Bounty Hunters. The gob woman doesn't let go of Dong the entire time, her small fingers finding the gorget that protects his neck and latching in her panic, to keep things a bit clearer as to who was where, and of course moving things around. The Hat and Mr. T were carrying different halves of the container. The moment the elevator door closes and they start going up, she starts talking. Who are you people? I'm Captain Schmidt. You're being held onto by Specialist Ding. Specialist Shabalal and Specialist James have different halves of your previous prison. Waiting above is Operative Jameson. Pookie explains, tapping himself on the chest with the enormous hand of the pummeler. And so his son? She asks, pointing to the Hat, but clearly thinking she's pointing at Mr. T. They're unrelated. It's just James is a popular name on the homeworld, and some family naming traditions means things can get confusing. They're not even from the same culture, although their cultures share a language. Also, I'm the other one. Bungani Chabalal at your service. That one is Samuel James. The Hat says, gesturing with his chunk of the pod towards Mr. T. Why are you in stealth armor? We're in a dangerous place, and the easiest way to avoid being hurt is not to be attacked at all. If your enemy never even swings at you, then you generally don't get hurt, Dong explains. Most of the danger has passed, and we have a large force here now. But there's the question of what was going on with you. You claim to have just woken up? Yes, but you also mentioned odd dreams. What does that have to do with anything? You were the central part of a massive bioengineered weapon, an axiom-based one. Are you an adept? I am, but I don't see how a perception adept is a weapon. Perception adept? I was invited to this world to keep an eye on it. After the attack from something called Xueting C, they wanted to know if someone was making big axiom moves ahead of time. Apparently she had some kind of death field up that stopped people from running. We faced her ourselves, and while it was a hollow daughter that got her, in the end, it was only after we managed to grab her and get her into our custody, Pukey says as they reach the top. Towel? Shirt? Some other form of dignity? Harold asks as they reach the top, holding out a fluffy red towel that the gob snatches out of his hand and immediately starts cleaning herself off with. She then takes a large shirt from him and a package of unopened underwear, then pauses at the last thing he offers after putting on slippers. Why the scissors? The cord, he says. How did you get this done so fast? I can teleport really far and am not afraid to throw money at problems to solve them fast. We need you talking so we can understand things, and you'll speak more if you're comfy with us, Harold explains. Okay, one more question. Shoot, Harold says. Are you blind? No, I'm weird, but thank you for your concern, Harold says. Anyways, I'm Operative Harold Jameson, a loose-leash heavy hitter of undaunted intelligence, which basically means I wander around, poke my nose into things, and get into fights with a smile, all while being paid to do it. Who are you, madam? Olivia Overdrive, professional perception adept, but the first day I was supposed to be working, everything fades to black, and now I'm here, naked, bald, and with an umbilical cord. She explains herself before accepting a toke from Harold. Thank you. I looked into things. You're apparently working hard and accounted for publicly, Harold says, which means that we have more clones out there than the people we found in stasis, Pukey remarks. Shit, Olivia curses. Shit indeed. Some poor people are being used in experiments. Hopefully you got the worst of it, Harold says. Excuse me? Olivia demands in a testy tone. Do you really want someone to get worse than what's happened to you? This is bad, yes, but it could be so much worse, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Oh yes, you're right, that. Olivia shifts uncomfortably and the umbilical cord sticks to the floor a little and tugs at her. Could you do something about this? How about I get you to a hospital right quick so some medical professionals can do it instead? I'm good at cutting things off people, but not putting them back on. Oh, right, Olivia says, and Harold holds out his hand. She takes it and they teleport away. So we're pinning him down and getting answers out of him later, right? Mr. T asks. Yes, we are, Pukey says. Thank God that mysterious all-knowing act is old even before it gets here, Bike states. Fucker wasn't even sharing things with me and I'm the comms guy. You have to talk to me. I move fast, you would have slowed me down, Harold says into the link. Thank you, Harold, now. Also, your body cams are high enough fidelity to work with facial recognition software. And after I make sure that Olivia here is all right, I'm going to stalk her clone. Possibly shave its head so this poor girl can have a wig. Oh, do you think if I scalp it that we can surgically implant the... Dude, what the fuck? Pukey demands and Harold laughs. There we go. I was wondering where the line was. You are having way too much fun with this. I'm teaching myself to be as over the top and extra as possible. Use it to live life as fully as I can get it, which means casually doing things that other people don't even consider. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to enjoy myself on the next mission, Harold says, and there's an audible clicking noise. Did he hang up? Bike asks. No, but it sounds like it, doesn't it? Harold asks. The creature had given its final birth. Its distended and twisted form was shrunken down to the level where it looked merely pregnant, and not as if it had been inflated to preposterous size. He helps out of the cradle and it staggers against him. Instinct is allowing it to balance upright, but it understands nothing. It is leaning against him and cooing in a way that it's clearly trying to comfort him. Hoffet has never been more confused or out of his comfort zone in his life. Even the few times he personally saved people's lives rather than defend them or lead rescue to them, hadn't been so awkward. How is he supposed to comfort a creature with no language, no knowledge, no comprehension, or anything beyond the most basic reasoning abilities? "Can you hear me?" he asks through the speakers on his armor, and the creature responds by poking at the speakers and putting the side of her head against them to try and hear. He lowers the volume so as not to startle her. "Is there anything about language buried in your mind?" "Ind," she states. "Okay, so she is capable of mimicry. That's good. The problem is that she has wrapped herself around him and is not allowing him to move. He needs to move in case there is a danger, which is all but guaranteed. There's no way that he hasn't tripped some kind of alarm by damaging the equipment. And even if those are not monitored, then the distinct lack of monster output will surely be noticed." "Okay, I need you to work with me," he says in the most soothing of tones he can muster. "Allow me to move. Please." He very slowly, very deliberately, and very gently starts to step, and thankfully the creature gives way and allows him to move. Thankfully it's not too late as she shifts to less wrapping around him and more hanging off. And now that she's deflated further, he can sweep her up in his wings. He'll have to stay within the building for now and see if he can't shift her position without exposing her to harm. He has no doubt that the wretched blister agent outside will do nightmarish things to this poor creature. But he still needs to move, scout, and learn more. In battles beyond individual fights, there are few things more lethal than ignorance. And even in quick one-to-one duels, ignorance is deadly. He carries the creature out of the room, not sure how to get it to stay in any one place when he has to put it down or leave it. "Hafid, my son, how fares the city?" "I am unable to leave this creature without it attempting to remain with me. Leaving this building will leave the creature into its death. It is an innocent mother, an abused innocent." "Hafid, you are not alone, my son. Your wives, these women, might not be, but they are loyal. You have led them in acts of healing, of reparation, and conservation. Lead them again," Ch.Ch.316 tells him, and he looks down to the pale thing in his arms and nods. This is not about him or his discomfort. This is about Albrecht and its abused children. All channels. This is Hafid. I have found the source of the monsters. Abused gestators need their impregnation cycles interrupted so they can be safely evacuated and the unending parade of horrors can be halted. We will make no progress until the heart of this madness is cut away. I have found this heart. Prepare field hospitals and childhood learning programs for these entities. They are capable of thought but empty of mind and knowledge. They are children forced to be mothers, and we shall rescue them. Anything else, his mother prompts him. They are unable to tell the difference between the children they are forced to part with and other people. This one with me is mistaking me for her own child. So she is attempting to stay close to me and comfort me. These creatures are utterly harmless. Defend them. He orders, and in moments a woman in dark armor is suddenly next to him, having used the beacons in his armor to home in on his location. The creature in his arms gasps at the sudden presence of yet another, and she reaches for her. "Be gentle, she is incapable of even considering harming you," Hafid warns her. "Of course, sir, this creature is safe with me," she states as she gently takes the creature's arm and guides it to lean on her instead, then teleports away with it. "So tell me something, Dart. What were your plans before signing up?" the trainer asked, tossing another sand-filled ball into the huge mess that the four-armed man is somehow keeping in the air. He had honestly expected him to fumble 3 juggling balls ago, but he was still going strong, and that was leading into the question into what exactly this man's more unspoken skill set was. Even among rabbis, juggling more than 5 balls is a challenge. This boy was now at 10 and barely noticing. "What do you mean?" Dart asks, as if holding a conversation, and juggling 10 balls at once wasn't difficult at all. "What were your plans before signing up? What kind of career were you hoping to make? What was your future? Romance aside, what are you planning? Rabbis make fine shots and pilots with their reflexes and coordination, but your own seem to be nothing short of exceptional. You're at a professional here," he says, tossing the 11th ball into the mess, and it gets incorporated in. But Dart finally messes up as he starts to think hard, and then forgets to focus. Then the ensuing panic as he tries to keep everything in the air causes less a failure and more a fiasco, as the balls go every which way at high speeds and the trainer dodges to the side to avoid getting one in the nose. I just sort of killed time, Dart admits. What? Nothing seemed to ever be for me, you know. The only thing that ever really made sense was when I met my Alara, but before that it seemed like nothing. Like nowhere I went was meant for me. Nothing clicked, nothing fit, nothing made sense. It was like the whole of reality was made for someone else, someone distinctly not me. And everything, up to and including the processes to make a place for myself, seemed to be someone else's game entirely. So what changed? Alara, she makes me feel wanted, like I belong. Most women, it's just lust or desperation or just the urge to have someone. Not about me, not about caring. Then things just suddenly changed and I knew it couldn't be real. But I couldn't find out the answer until you guys helped me. How did you two meet? She saved me. Despite being a high-ranking officer, she makes a point of going on basic patrols now and again and encourages everyone in the office to do so in order to make sure no one forgets what it's like to actually walk a beat. Also, she was promoted pretty quickly after so many of her bosses got killed by Visud. I was being pinned to a wall by some women celebrating after Visud Schmart was confirmed killed, and if not for her, I see, so she's your rescuer, and now you want to rescue her, even though you feel like you don't belong. Yes. All right. That doesn't actually answer what I wanted to know, though, so I'll be direct. How did you get so good at juggling? I got bored a few years ago and practiced it until I got good at it. Ah, yeah, kinda embarrassing. Nothing to be ashamed of. Just me wondering if you have a natural skill level that's through the roof or some prior training. You have some prior training. That's good. You have the discipline to stick with something. OOCS into a wider galaxy, Part 318. The Bounty Hunters. The sensation of a scanner going off nearby is unmistakable, and she turns. She sees nothing, and there is the sense of a scanner going off, but look, I know someone's pulling some kind of game, but I don't have time. There's some kind of very subtle axiom veil that's falling even now. Go away, Olivia tells her stalker. Where would you say this veil is located? He asks as the scan continues, but she can't pin down his location. Why? She demands, wondering just how the hell she's not finding this person. She's trained for this kind of nonsense, and he's still somehow getting around it. Because according to this scanner, you are not a clone, the voice says, and out of nowhere a man just appears. His looks are striking, his face is chiseled and balanced with numerous strange markings that have axiom pouring out of them, already attuned to his presence and bolstering him. His eyes are pure white, but her mind goes to stars before marbles, and his body appears to be made of wire wrapped around his skeleton. Why would you say I'm a clone? Because we found a woman identifying as you, locked up and trapped in the center of some biohorror that had been poised to bring about mass death. What? You've been cloned and brain scanned. When was the last time you had a healing coma? He asks her, and her eyes widen in horror. Where is she? Tarlin Memorial Hospital, getting tested for possible pathogens, he answers. Take me there now. All right then. Hand, he says, holding out his right hand while prepping a teleport. She grabs on and they're gone. There were 10 of them. 10 crippled children being forced to give birth to children. There are many kinds of abuse that can be heaped upon others, but abuse of those that cannot and do not understand the harm you cause them is a special kind of evil. For her own sake, the wretch responsible best be kept a distance from me. There was a central archive, but it was in a language he did not know. Not that it would matter for long. His devices had registered it as Pisan, the language of the Rikli-Misli, one of the innumerable semi-nomadic cultures in the galaxy. Its language is known and understood, even phonetically similar to several languages he knows, but sharing no roots. It was already being translated. But that was not the worst of things. More sources of the monsters were being discovered, and the large creatures avoided in the gas. He was thankful that the variant the humans had introduced to this world had been a deliberately flawed and more easily perceived version. Not only did it make the danger easier to identify, but it became useful as a visual block between his people and the monsters. But the gas needed to be cleared away, the monsters dealt with, and the settled residue neutralized safely. His nephew Terence was capable of clearing the gas. Warren, his brother, was already coming with the cure to the residue. His father would see to the repatriation of the innocents, his grandparents the healing, but he would see to the monsters. The entire Wayne clan would heal and protect the world. Not bad for a family named due to a typo several generations back. Of course, to get there, he must first head out and actually see to the monsters. All teams, I am going to begin probing the large protoslobes, determining their level of hostility and danger. I expect you all to continue your focus on the safe evacuation of the Gestaders and the retrieval and translation of all possible data. His orders given, he walks out of the building and crouches before passing through the barrier, holding back the poison in the air. He is a Sonir. He should not be walking so much, no matter how practical it is. Winged peoples belong in the sky. It was something his terrestrially bound mother often failed to understand. No matter how skillfully she could soar with axiom, engine, or other forms of propulsion, she was born to stand firm on the ground. He was born for the sky. With no help from his armor, he launches himself up and outwards, the sheer strength of his wing beats carrying him and the heavy armor. Then as he reaches his fifth powerful wing stroke, and only as he reaches his fifth wing stroke, does he engage the compensations built in. The raw strain has set his muscles burning, and as Axiom soothes the sensation, he is awakened and alive. 5 wing strokes compensated with, it is as if he is flying with only thin clothing on. He is above the buildings. Then he turns on the full assist the armor offers him, and in a single stroke of his wings, crosses 3 times the distance his past 10 wing strokes carried him. He is well above the city now and lets out a cry far beyond the range of most peoples to hear. The sound returns and he notes the softened places where his prey are moving. The stone gives an almost sharp contrast around them. The gas does nothing to hide them from him. He swoops down and soars quickly over one of the nearest slime monsters. It reaches for him in jagged, grabbing limbs that he dodges away from, and he soars away into the gas. Now comes the test. It follows as expected, but will it follow to attack or to examine? He lands not far away and allows it to catch up. It lunges at him rather than simply waiting, and he takes off again to get proper distance. He then dives again and leaves behind a small projector that displays an image of him behind this time, and the creature attacks the image with clear, lethal intent. Almost a pity. He switches around in midair and tosses a series of pellets into the creature. The acids of the creature crack the outer shells of the pellets in moments, and the creature outright lets an audible shriek as it cracks the chemical weapons. The weapons that are barely rated for a human's dinner plate, but a chemical weapon that isn't immediately lethal and can be quickly counteracted with a minimum of fuss. The sensation of being unnaturally cold washes over the creature, and it draws an axiom to try and warm itself, and then it catches fire. The creature tries to snuff itself out and then sets itself on fire again, as it cannot recognize logically that it is not in fact freezing, and it needs to get control. A person would be shocked, badly distracted, and in pain. But unlike this unthinking thing, would not be killing themselves. They would still need a hospital visit to nullify the toxin, but they would survive. The thing burns itself to death, and he nods. No thought, no reason. Even the gestators would have been wiser. The bald Olivia points directly to her counterpart and shouts in shock as she sees her. Clone! Clone! The hairier one calls back in the same tone, and as the bald one hops off the bed, and they rush up to each other and match each other's movements, with them poking at each other, but only poking the other in the tip of the other's poking finger. Poke, 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 poke. They lean into each other and tilt their heads from side to side. There is a rush of axiom, and Harold can hear whispering in an unknown language inside it, then suddenly smiling and throwing their arms around each other in a mutual hug. Sister! They call out, and Harold laughs. Damn! And here I thought me and Herbert had a good clone and original relation. You're a clone? the Olivia ask at the same time. They've synchronized already. I am. My older brother is de-aged and looks like he's closer to my son. He's awesome, helped me get a legal name, downloaded everything into me so I can do what I want, and I get to do things he wants to do, but is too busy to, including visiting Albrith. Nice, the Olivia state together. So for the record, you two are fine with this? Harold asks. We are. We come from a big family and we were one of the only ones without a twin or an identical cousin. We were worried that our skill was being used badly, but if it's just another me, then it's fine, they say. Okay then, are you going to need any help with the legal paperwork or anything that will need me here at all? Nope, they say as one, and he raises an eyebrow before shrugging. Okay then, far be it from me to tell grown adults what to do or think, Harold says. We will need to get information out of you. Whatever you're going to call the younger of you two, unless you're going to do something fun with that. I'm Olivia Overdrive, and that's Olivia Overdrive. They both say, pointing to each other and then hooking their arms together to point at themselves. All right, let me give you some contact information so that when you're comfortable talking, you can give us a call and we'll have a friendly chat. Do you have a favorite snack and drink? You'll bring snacks? They ask. I'll do the questioning too if you want me to. If you're willing to work with us, then we're willing to work with you right back. That's undaunted practicality, Harold assures them. Sure, sounds great. Do you need it soon? In the next day or so would work really well, Harold says. Anyways, there's a lot more mess to look through. Not everyone's going to have such a good ending to their story as this. He checks the data slate hanging off the wall and looks it up. You may want to stay in here for a bit longer. Looks like a few important tests haven't been run yet. You don't want to be caught off guard by extreme aging rates. Believe me. Oh, yeah, that would be bad, they say. Right, I'm off you two. Listen to the doctors know. They allegedly know what they're talking about. Thank you for that vote of confidence, a doctor says in a complete deadpan from the hallway. He turns around and sticks out his tongue before vanishing in a teleport. Does he know that there are at least 8 cultures near here that consider that a proposition? If he did, I think he'd be a tease, the Olivia mentioned. Do you think any more of me are going to be found? The Olivia Collective must grow. Okay, so I'm back after all the mess. There are no current fires and... Pukey pauses when he sees DD's new sweater. He has no idea where it came from. It has the periodic symbol for copper, followed by the symbol for tellurium, then yttrium, and below them all is the symbol for pi. Cutie pie, Cindy is openly holding back a laugh. Your move, Harold says from nearby, and Pukey turns to stare at him. He takes a crunchy bite out of an apply like he just made some kind of point. If you think making my squishy little girl look like a preppy nerd is somehow a slam against me, then you don't know me at all. I want to know where you got that so I can get another 50 for her, Pukey says, and Cindy starts outright laughing as Harold snaps his fingers in clearly fake frustration. In all seriousness, man, congratulations. I know I didn't get a chance to offer my own congrats. Were you even alive then? I don't know what kind of excuse non-existence gives me, Harold replies. Pukey starts chuckling, then pausing. And what have you done with my son? You'll have to find out, won't you? He's here, Litha says in a very pleased tone, as she decloaks and unwinds herself around the floating crib where George, with a stuffed dragon that has a hole in it with a stuffed sword shoved through, is napping peacefully. Okay, the fake drug bottles are one thing. How did you even prepare for this? Impaled dragon plushes are not on the market, Pukey asks in an amused tone as his little dragon slayer naps peacefully with the soft horn of the beast in his mouth. Oh, I've been prepping this one for a while. It's actually from me and Herbert. We brainstormed it. You're a goof. And the day that becomes a lie is one I never want to see, Harold replies with a bow. You and your brother both. The fact that you're just one of the oldest of one of humanity's biggest branches is mildly terrifying. Just mildly. I need to get my menace level up, Harold states with a grin, and Pukey looks from where Dee is squirming happily in her fluffy pink sweater, and George has shifted to absently gumming on the snout of a plush dragon in his sleep. Shut up. I said nothing, you big softy. I said shut up, Harold says. Fine. Now what has been found out? OOCS, OCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 319, The Bounty Hunters. So, what am I looking at? Pukey asks, looking at the container filled with a waxy something. It's halfway between a gel and wax. Almost entirely transparent, it does nothing exciting just sitting in the jar. Was that scrapped off the creature? Harold asks. It's fat, actually. The fat just under the thin skin of these things acts as a barrier. It leaks through the pores and covers them constantly with a protective barrier, Cindy says before pointing to another with a green slime all over it. That one there is from its lungs and internal organs. It's a natural neutralizing agent for the mustard gas. She made a natural biological counteragent for mustard gas producible by the body with some tweaking and used it to produce horrors. What in the... Why would... Pukey asks. It gets better. This is a master class in bioengineering. I can barely understand half of what I'm seeing, and what I am seeing is stretching my understanding of biology at a base level. How can someone be so brilliant in bioengineering without having the common sense to not be a monster that everyone will want dead? Cindy asks in a shocked tone, and Dee Dee starts fussing a bit, only for Cindy to break off and start comforting the little Orhanas. This is reminding me of a comic book. A mad scientist was turning people into dinosaurs, and when it was pointed out they could print money by curing diseases, he countered with not wanting to cure cancer. He wanted to make people into dinosaurs. Until we start seeing comic panels around us, we're going to have to assume we're living in reality. No matter how weird things get, Pukey remarks. So I should take off the pouches? Harold asks, and Pukey turns around to see that Harold is halfway into strapping a seventh band of pouches onto his person. 2 on the waist, 2 on the torso, 1 on each thigh, and is wrapping 1 around his upper arm. You know what? I want to see just how many you can fit on yourself. And yes, I'm going to be taking pictures, Pukey says, and Harold just grins. Challenge accepted. The remains of the creature turn black as it finishes dying, and then it starts hissing, the corpse mixing with the mustard gas to turn caustic. Interesting. Huffied sweeps up a small part of the creature into a glass vial to be scanned, and then raises an eyebrow under his armor as it eats through the glass. Very interesting. Slobes naturally require axium to aid digestion. How is this creature so naturally acidic? Alerts start going off, and he lets off a huff of annoyance. The fumes coming off the corpse are acidic as well. He gets some distance, but the armor has been partially compromised. All teams, be very aware of the slime monsters patrolling the city. They are hostile, and when killed react with the poison fumes to form a powerful acidic compound that can compromise armor. I am departing as my own is damaged. I will return. He triggers a recall, and in a distant place, a powerful axiom engine begins churning to his command. Space warps around him, and he is summoned back into a containment chamber. His suit is instantly scanned, and a secondary engine begins to churn. He is teleported directly out of his armor, as the armor is then teleported into a proper holding area for decontamination. He is scanned again and given a clean bill of health. It is hard to find an excess of caution when dealing with dangerous weapons gone rogue. System status of armor. Armor containment at 87%. Outer surface 98% contaminated with a known chemical weapon dubbed mustard gas. Variant B, Variant B. Have our files been recently updated? File information of substance mustard gas updated 2 hours, 14 minutes, 8 seconds ago. Nature of update? Amendment to the visual and scent profile of mustard gas. Variant A is nearly undetectable. Variant B is pungent in odor and on 85% of all visual spectrums. Understood, Hafid says. Prep secondary armor with full environmental shields and reinforce the atmospheric seals. Confirm modifications estimated to take 20 minutes. Understood, Hafid states, and he leaves the room to begin rushing through his ship. He reaches his personal armory and considers things, then retrieves a riot suppression cannon. He knows how to kill the monsters with ease, but he'll be setting up numerous exclusion zones in the city. But the upside to acid is that it loses its potency in a hurry. No matter how strong it is, it loses power, and if it eats through the gas, then it eats through the gas. The Gestatters in need of rescue are inside the buildings, and the stone beneath the monster had been one of the few things the chemical hadn't been eating through. So he's going to drench each of the slime monsters in what humans call mint and watch them all burn to death. Then use the acid to dissolve the other monsters, turn their lair into a hazard they cannot survive. But first things first, evacuate the innocent. There's also another matter to consider. Teams, has anyone bothered to track the delivery drone system in the Tainted City? Hafid asks. I have, an unfamiliar voice states. A male one. State your name. Lord Slithern Hardytail Schmidt, son of the Laneways, trainee of the Undaunted, and a lord of the Lablan Empire. But most importantly right now, drone commander, I have several hardened spy drones outright attached to numerous of these delivery drones and several more following others in stealth. I haven't found anything too exciting yet, but the situation is being watched with my 1,000 mechanical eyes. Good man, keep us informed. My teams are on the ground and rescuing innocents. We need all the intel we can get, Hafid states. Understood. Slithern states and says nothing else. Hafid raises an eyebrow but shrugs it off. If this trainee is wise enough to know the danger of chatter, then he can definitely work with that. Hello. Why did you ask to see me? Rebecca Gemscale asks as she slithers into an interview room, with no less than the very man who had been interrogating Vesudasmart second coming, or perhaps third. She wasn't fully informed on the situation and wasn't sure what to think. Did the clone who only lived long enough to make another, radically different version of herself count as of Vesudasmart? Something for the historians to decide. Well, an introduction will help with that. Madam, I am Observer Wu. I have been sent from Earth to get the clearest and widest possible gaze of the galaxy at large. As you can imagine, a world deep within cruel space is very different to the rest of the galaxy, and the differences are so rampant and on such a scale that it is near physically impossible for some of our leaders to actually believe what they've been told. So they've sent out myself as a trusted professional to get a second look. Oh, I see. Why me, though? You are a civilian in the galaxy whose life has been upended, twice now, by undaunted action. Now, since you've been rescued twice, this will be an undoubtedly positive opinion. But I would like to hear it, and if you ever wanted to talk to an entire species, this is likely to be publicly broadcast. Let Earth know you, dear woman. And what am I supposed to start with? Hello, I'm Rebecca, sorry boys, but you need to cross a galaxy to get this much woman? She asked, rising up and shaking her hips from side to side. That's quite the start. But I was thinking more, what you think about people and the state of things. You're very lovely, madam, but we're here for your lovely mind. Oh, very well then. I am Rebecca Gemscale. I'm currently the elected governess of Ulbrith. This is technically my first proper term, but I've reigned as governess for a time due to the effects of Vesudasmart. If this is your first encounter with the title, my understanding is that it's a number from a spacer language. Long story short, about a year ago, saying that word would see me instantly dead thanks to a lightning bolt out of nowhere. Then this entire area would cause a deadly static buildup, and just being in it would slowly see a lesser, but still potentially deadly blast of electricity. Trying to run failed, we couldn't speak of it, write about it, or anything else. Then came one of your teams, the chain breakers. They poked at the problem until it poked back. I saw the footage. They got hit by a lesser blast while investigating things. It only made them mad and they pulled things apart. Days after they arrive, the field drops. They contact me and they tell me that Vesudasmart is dead. I wait for some kind attack or retaliation, and it's done. I remember how unreal that felt. Then they tell me that they're not done and they're going to root her out. They find all sorts of clones and give me the details of some of the most horrible things I've ever seen. A few more days pass, and I've learned that they pulled a local gang off the streets and have recruited them. Then a moon disappears, and they show me with full video and everything that there was a completely insane setup on a mined-out Moonin system. After that, I'm given the option of having these kind of men just show up regularly in our world being protected. And now, they caught it. They caught it, and they caught her before she could make her big comeback. I'm terrified that it got me, but I'm one piece. I'm alive. They got her again on her comeback. She was trying to be sneaky, and they got her. Rebecca says before calming down. But things then got really complicated. Complicated how? They told me who and what exactly Xueting was. That her actual name is Eva Grace, and she's a clone of someone the Undaunted recruited, and I just... She makes a strangling motion in frustration and settles down. What is the problem? Observer Wu asks. You'd probably know better than me. You've interrogated Xueting's lastest incarnation? Yes, but this interview is liable to be seen without the context of that more delicate information being seen first. Please explain in full, Observer Wu says. All right, here's the issue, she says, adjusting her position to be more comfortable. Xueting, Bane of Albrith, is someone's clone, a modified one, done by a professional cloner. By all rights, he should have been able to catch the mental issues, but he didn't. I've had some time to think on this and spoke about this a bit, but this man made a mistake, then failed to spot it, and unleashed unimaginable horrors on this world. I have gone to so many funerals, seen many, too many good people die, all at the whims of a monster, and I'm being asked to separate the monster from her creator, which is legally speaking correct. But he made her, and she did so much. Wouldn't he be responsible for it, even in part? Suppose I agree with you completely. Then what? What amount of her crimes is he guilty of? Is there some way to measure it? Or are you implying that some of the punishment that would go to her should go to him instead? Yes, no, I really don't know. My first instinct was that the crime is so big that anyone with even a partial claim to responsibility should just be executed on live broadcast and a week of celebration would follow. But, well, I don't know what to think. That's the problem with certainty. If you're incorrect, it's hard to find your balance again, Observer Wu notes gently. No. Kidding, and it doesn't get any better that there's no legal way to prosecute Ivan that he's not already surpassed in his self-recrimination for his part in this. What do you mean? I've been told the man is in therapy and also being watched due to potential suicidal thoughts. It's so weird. His clone is the one who is guilty, but he's the one feeling the guilt. If I may offer a suggestion, Observer Wu asks. Oh? Throughout history, there have been cases of honor-based cultures where a parent, superior officer, or otherwise would be responsible for everything that someone they command has done. Few of them do so anymore. One of the reasons for that is the recognition of free will. It doesn't matter how much authority someone has over someone else. That other person can go out and do something horrible, and you can do nothing to stop it. Observer Wu shrugs. But he is a biologist who specializes in cloning. He should have caught it, but he didn't, and everyone suffered because he failed. It's not that simple, though, is it? No, it's not. He was the first victim. She de-aged him back into an egg, stole his identity, and used his assets to make her horrors. But you're still upset with him? Yes, which is why I've already confirmed I will not be running for another term. That's unfortunate. A leader who admits and learns from mistakes, who can be persuaded into changing their mind with logical arguments, is a good thing, Observer Wu says before shrugging. Or at least seems to be what people consider a good thing. It's generally hard to find it in practice. Thank you, Rebecca says, giving him a shy smile. Now, what can you tell me about the governmental systems of Albrith, and how do they compare to others? You want the details on my job? Of course, Observer Wu says in a friendly tone. I'm here to learn, so please, teach me. This is odd, Slithern says as he follows one of the drones into a loading bay. The ones that his smaller drones had latched onto had started circling areas, and the claws on the bottom of the drone opening and closing. It seems they can detect the nearly negligible extra weight, and assumed anything beyond the weight of the drone itself was a signal that it had a load it needed to deliver. He taps his mechanical fingers a few times and considers. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 320. The Bounty Hunters. The drones are moving through a carefully cut hallway through a solid rock face. He had detached the smaller drones and set them to shadow the other drones, as literally as possibly by hovering just a breath underneath them. What was the term from that human movie? Wear it as a hat? The most he could remember from it is that the main character allegedly had a tattooed penis, and there was a massive fart while everyone had to be quiet, and they got out of that trouble by one of the other characters mimicking local wildlife. It had been so strange he could barely remember anything else. It had been a month or 3 since he'd seen it. He'd have to watch it again. There are 2 separate areas the drones are returning to. The ones he had attached smaller drones to going into one place, and the other going into another. Now there lies a question as to if it was his adding weight that caused this, or if he just got lucky. Likely the first, but the second was not out of the question. The unattached drones are picking up something. He notes and he scratches his chin as he has another screen bring up the data feed in Python. He only just started Python and had put it aside to start learning the languages of the Loblan Empire. A bit of a mistake it would seem. Still, he can identify a few words here and there and has the data set to record on a secluded hard drive. If there was a virus in the programming, well, it would have a hard time coming across as his drones used a very much non-Python programming language. But if there was something in there that could jump the character and command differences, rare but not unheard of, then it wouldn't hit the main ship. And if it got all the way into his implants, rare but not unheard of. There were so many redundancies and safeties built in that the worst it would do is hurt. A lot. There's not enough bang in any of his implants to kill him. Not even the ones directly attached to his nervous system. But Xueting C is a consistently psychotic bitch of a woman whose genius is only matched by her madness. And he wouldn't put anything past her at this point. La la la, do. He partially sings to himself as all his drones casually start to navigate down the corridors, and there are a few too many twists and turns to be practical. But it's not surprising. The crazy woman has always been too much in all things. Hello, Slithern notes as his smaller drones wearing the others like hats suddenly detect a significant widening of the tunnel, including weapon systems lining the walls. But his smaller drones are so close to Xueting C's drones that whatever detection they have is being fooled. Either that or they are detected, but the firing algorithms aren't permitted to potentially damage the actual drones. Or any number of other reasons. Until he sees the code in those things, it's anyone's guess. He spots something in the Python code. It takes him a few moments to mentally parse it, then nods as it clicks into place. A quick bit of typing, and his drones start giving out what he believes is an IFF code that the other drones have on. The reaction is instant, but then seems to abort. The weapons lining the corridor activate and begin searching for threats, but find nothing. And that includes the weapons that are now revealing themselves with the more free-flying drones, showing that he was nowhere near as safe as he thought. A distress code, there is danger, but do not shoot me. Slithern notes. Can one of you girls work on translating this? I've only got the loosest grip on Python and can't translate while piloting. I've got it. I have several translation programs I've been fiddling with. Corporal Ravine states and Slithern nods. Thank you. You're welcome, she chirps back. Need something to do? You keep yourself plenty safe most of the time. I'm the drone boy. It's the only way Mom and Dad let me near a battlefield, and then I started liking it, Slithern says as he types in a few commands. Hello. It looks like everything is opening up. And just as he says that, there is a flash of light on one of the screens just before a drone's signal gets cut off. So, that one probably got slagged. He adjusts the camera on the next one and has it prime its engines for evasive maneuvers. And that's when a drone from the group wearing things like a hat suddenly cuts off. Then the other drones register a very loud bang. Kinetics? That sounded like a railgun, Technician Lather asks. It did indeed. Slithern agrees. The other had the distinctive blue glow of mass-produced plasma. So the drones are being targeted. They are, and we're about to get a look at what it is exactly. Slithern says as his next drone comes into the same 10-meter area that he lost the first drone in, and he sees something shifted in its widened screen. He guns the engine and dodges a blast of blue plasma. He has his other drones dip out of the way of things and conceal themselves as he devotes all his attention to one in specific. The small device bounces through the air and dodges shot after shot after shot as more and more plasma cannons wake up. He then hits a booster to dodge something that sounds like a railgun, and there is a massive cracking sound as it impacts the cave wall instead. Loo, loo, loo. He softly sings to himself as he scans the entire cave area and makes note of the power cords before repositioning the unarmed but swift little thing in just such a way that his next dodge shuts down several cannons. The railgun goes off again, and following the crack of the wall as he dodges it, there's rumbling sound. Uh-oh! The next 15 seconds is an exercise in chaos, confusion, and then bemused defeat as half the cavern comes down. Everything is still firing, and Slytherin can only dodge so many obstacles before he makes a mistake. And that mistake results in a multi-ton boulder, reducing the drone to tiny pieces. Dodge plasma, dodge rail shot, cannot dodge rock. Got it, he says with a chuckle as he counts them off on his fingers. He opens up his line of communication to Hafid's conservation network again. All groups, this is Lord Hardytail Schmidt. My drones, while following the feeding drones of the city, have come up against automated defenses, which includes at least one railgun, which has destabilized the cavern and other defenses were inside. Which is why you just heard so much collapsing rock and stone. Mind your heads, I'm going to scan the caverns and check for further instabilities. Confirmed, continue your investigations. If you're catching fire, then you're over a valuable target. Hafid informs him as he finishes interlocking the suppression cannon onto his replacement armor. It's a heavier and less elegant model than his normal scout gear, but had so much in the way of shielding and sheer plating that it would need to be worn by nothing more than a target dummy for his scout armor to actually be able to win against it. The enormous armor opens at his command and he steps into the massive frame. Padded undersuit presses up against him firmly but not harshly, and he allows the armor to synchronize with him. His vision is filled with tactical readouts, and although its radar is below even his natural abilities, the sheer visual capacity of the armor more than compensates. He was a man in powerful flying armor before. Now he's a walking war machine. The shields activate, and the armor starts outright glowing from the sheer defensive power. Many would describe power armor as walking tanks, but in his case, this model was more a personal bunker with emplacements and artillery. The closed system opens a portal on the floor, and he jumps through it. The massive armor lands with a thud audible over half the poison-choked city. He's more solid than any of the buildings and has a shield so powerful that a fool could fight a starship in hand-to-hand in this suit. All teams, I have returned to the field, and on your go will begin the mass extermination of the gel monsters. If you are confident that you can safely evacuate all gestators in your area, then give me a go. Go! Go! We're a go, sir. Confirmed, sir. We are go. Go! Go! It's go! We're already finished. Go! Hafid nods as all his teams quickly report in a go status, and he brings up the HUD. Every footfall of the armor shakes the area, and he can hear the lesser horrors shriek in terror as they detect him. Even the passive ones get up and run as he walks among them, and his mother stated that his false crimson hewer armor was never going to be useful. He unloads a round of concentrated chemical cold into the first slime creature, and it sets itself on fire, much like the one earlier. He marks its location on the communal map for his teams to avoid as he continues his slow, methodical, and inevitable extermination of the creatures. Within 5 minutes, 10 of them are burning. Main cavern is still stable. Slytherin states before instructing the drone to head to a decontamination area as a heavy combat drone starts floating in. All teams, I am sending in a heavy combat platform to clear out remaining enemy emplacements. Keep a good distance from the northwestern part of the cavern, as there is a potential for return weapon fire from that area. Confirmed, good hunting, Hafid sends back. The combat drone was a lot more involved than his other ones, mainly because he hadn't finished programming it yet. It had to be manually operated at all times. How could he? It was an ever-evolving design. It moved forward under a fraction of its typical speed and phased out to pass harmlessly, though the too small drone tunnel. A ghost of metal and murderous power, a torso on a floating platform with numerous cannons, numerous smaller, more simple drones with hull cutters docked onto it and ready to pry things apart. And finally, an actual set of hands so that it can manipulate things and use other weapons it discovers. Integrated weapons are excellent. Fully functional manipulators are also astounding. Both is better still. The torso on the platform was also a distraction. It was not required for the platform to function, and it can function without the platform. A final lethal surprise to any enemy that tried to take him down. Hell, most would be fooled by the fact that there were backup cameras in the torso of the drone. Why people thought robots or synths would drop with headshots was beyond him. Of course, they wouldn't carry their brain in a hard-to-armor, obvious weak point. The drone glides into the cavern like a ghost. Many of the lower and eastmost turrets are badly damaged, if not destroyed. That leaves half of them still intact. Slithern does not wait for them to open fire upon him as he unleashes the smaller drones first, and then slags the railguns to prevent damage as he overcharges the shield on his drone and aligns it towards plasma deflection. The cavern lights up with the blue fire of plasma as the turrets shoot at the obvious hostile target. To no avail, as the shield is a starship grade on that thing. He had taken inspiration from the Mother Massacre scare and had used her insanely reinforced body as a sort of template for this monster. The weapon fire tapers off as more and more plasma turrets are literally cut apart by the drones, and it takes only 3 minutes for the cavern to go silent and calm. The soft hum of drone engines followed by a few clicks as the smaller drones slot into place sound out, and then the head of the combat machine begins slowly scanning the newly refurbished cavern. Slithern marks the cannons for personal savage. No doubt Jade will want a few pieces for herself, and he'll be able to get some armor plating off of her in exchange. After all, why have one super destroyer drone when you can have two, or a few thousand? Lord Slithern, sir? You're laughing like a cut-rate villain. Sergeant Megara chides him.